Internet friends, my name's Eric. I'm the Huesto de Taquiendo de Famous de People Plays. And the winner of this year's Awesome Guy of the Year award for my contributions to substantial developments in the fields of awesomeness, coolness, radness, being bitchin', a lot of things. If you didn't know it was possible to be this cool, well, you're not alone, friends. A lot of people say that to me. Eric, how are you so cool? Well, first I just had to spend 50 years being varying kinds of uncool until I got rid of each of them from my body. Because it is true that uncoolness will collect in the kidneys. Hi, Ruben. How's it going? I hope it's going well. Either well or poorly. That's what I hope for you. I hope it's going either well or poorly. I want you to have a choice, is why. I don't want to tell you how to be. I'm just going to hope for you. You get to choose what I hope for. Anyway.
You live streaming?
I am. I am live streaming.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. You want this?
Thank you.
You can hold on to that for a while because I rolled a lot of into that.
Oh, you did?
So I'm smoking half of it right now. It's just like my lungs are cash. Let me pull up ye old El Stremo del Vivo. It's actually Vida. La Vida Stremoso. I like this guy, Drew Gooden. Appears to be quite a famous YouTuber. I'm not sure how I got to him. What the thing was that made me want to go there in the first place. But he's funny. I really think I'm quite impressed with him. Why does it show my history first? Well, I see I'm not at the channel. That's what. Here we go. Now I'm here. Finally, at long last. Hi, everybody. Barack Obama. Hi, at Barack Obama. How's it going? Here's my Barack Obama invitation. And America is but I say that here in America, we have too much to let the least more fortunate among us continue to suffer. He really had a certain humps quality to him, like a hill, like a first big hill, then a medium hill, then a small hill, in his vocal cadences. There's a lot of that stuff, you know. So we will make sure that if you work hard and do what you're supposed to do, you will be able to go to college. Like that, you know. He's got that cadence or patter to it. No, that didn't sound like Biden at all. Every once in a while, I've heard myself in videos. It's kind of how I realized that pattern of vocal expression that he has is because I heard myself doing it in one video, like one time. I notice I occasionally have that kind of sound to it, my voice, you know. Did I get my hat from Bobo the Hobo? Nope. I got it from Winston's mom, actually. It's a gift from Winston's mom. A channel over here. And do you know where I got my shirt from? Joe wears a drill bit? You know, if your name is Joe wears a drill bit, I'm assuming you're not Joe. Joe's somebody else. I was both pretty pleased and also annoyed by Lindsay Ellis's Yoko and the Beatles video. I thought her part on the Beatles was mostly pretty good. I think she was mostly fair and correct that people have heaped too much scorn on Yoko, that she's not the reason the Beatles broke up at all. But I would additionally say that she seems to have some trouble distinguishing between women maligned for their uppityness who were actually in the right, and those maligned for good reasons. I cannot believe she defended both Meghan Markle and Amber Heard. I thought her defense of Courtney Love was fine. It changed my opinion about it somewhat, although I didn't have any strong position, that I would state as a statement that I would affirm. But what I'm saying is, I feel more like, oh, Kurt Cobain was in certain ways,
Of course, another INFJ.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I never felt that way particularly about him before. It was just that note, the end of it, that made me really like, yeah. Osama bin chopping.
That's what I mean, like, why can't the INFJs...
Why can't they all be perfect all the time? Because, Rachel, they're not you. Anyone who thinks Yoko Ono is bad are not obviously not familiar with Yoko Dose. Excellent joke, Ruben. I like it. Have I had any sweet corn this year? I do have sweet corn in the fridge right now. Aubrey Emery says, "Do I like edging?" No. Aubrey, your edging being timed out, says Ruben R. Cobain sucks, says Boba Fett. Not true, but there's something insufferable about that communication that I disliked. Rachel does not eat hard-boiled eggs for any portion of the day, let alone all day. You hate mods so annoying? Well, I mean, depends where the moderators are and how they moderate, right? I moderated Johnny Rangus myself because he misattributed to Rachel the behavior of egg eating. I know, you might think, that's not sufficient cause. Am I Sigma? Some people say so. Greetings to all, says the Beta Show. I was talking to Rachel yesterday about how I'm actually a beta now. What do I think about free will? Free will is, okay, so here's the deal with the real question is, why do determinists want to collapse everything to determinism? Because in reality, we have to evaluate what would be the criteria that we'd use to evaluate if something qualifies as free will. Well, we have to first of all allow that we are in the same status quo universe that we're in now. The time moves unidirectionally forward. There's no requirement that you be able to undo somehow and redo for us to have free will. So given that, the alternative to undo, redo kind of free will is one in which we have conditionality. We're able to consider multiple options, at least make a show of it, right? And one in which we'd be able to evaluate after the fact whether or not we chose the right choice. We appear to be able to do that. Additionally, if we had free will, we'd be able to distinguish between expressions of will with varying degrees of freedom. We can do that. You can do something with a gun to your back, or you can do something of your own volition or something in between, right? So the burden is on the determinists to say, if you're going to claim that we are not experiencing and expressing free will in the status quo, then provide us an example of how the universe would be different, provided time continues unidirectionally, how the world would be different if we did have free will. In other words, if you're saying everything's determinism, then you're not saying anything at all. If you're saying our free will is an illusion because we are subject to the predetermined destiny of determinism, well, then you have to provide a counterexample of a universe that did have free will and how it would look different. If you can't do that, then you're not doing anything more than saying every direction's up, which is nothing at all. You don't. Where am I from? We're from California, United States of America. Very close to Yosemite National Park. Where is Mrs. Vaughn? I don't know. I'm not her keeper. It's a chromosomal thing. Ever seen Gattaca? No. I have not seen that. This will put me to sleep for sure. Thanks, fam. You're welcome. Obviously, incredibly engaging intellectual and/or, talk about society and other interesting intellectual things is gonna tire you out. Your brain can't handle that kind of stuff. Where is Melissa? I don't know. I'm not her keeper either. The fact that we all die at some point means free will doesn't exist. Free will is not the same thing as immortality. Or one can claim to have free will without claiming to be immortal. Why would you say that? Smash 420, hello. Well, if you want to go into that area of reasoning regarding free will, it's also the case that in every instance we behave as though people do have free will. In other words, we distinguish between, say, civil liability. You are guilty of something outcome because of your carelessness, you caused it, versus criminal liability. You're guilty of some outcome because you purposefully caused it, right? You can't be guilty of willfully committing a crime without the willful part. Well, what I'm saying, Manu John, is that we can establish a bunch of observations about how the world is. One could make the argument that the appearance of making choices is an illusion of some sort. You have a steeper hill to climb because you're making simply an additional observation with additional substantiation requirements to just the straight observation, right? If I say, I'm choosing to meow, I observe that I make choices, then all you have to do is give examples of instances in which choices were made. If you're making an additional argument that the appearance of choice is actually an illusion, you have more argumentational burdens to uphold, not fewer. Drinking fake beer is right, non-alcoholic beer. Well, just because you have free will doesn't mean you have the power to decide the status of everything exactly as you want it to. I may not freely choose to die at some point, but the fact that I was unable to stay alive forever doesn't invalidate the possibility that the choices I made when I was alive were freely made. And that's the issue at hand here. I find that, for the most part, you don't have a lot of bright people on the determinist side of things. It seems like how half-assed imitation intellects tend to like determinism. Sometimes you get a particularly contrary INTP, maybe playing devil's advocate for the determinist side, but by and large, only dummies believe in determinism. The most important reasons to not believe in it, though, and this is the thing that determinists don't get, are argumentational. Because when they're making the arguments in favor of determinism, they don't get that that's what they're doing, and that comes with certain standards, you know. And that's where a lot of disconnect between people butting heads and disagreement about things comes from. Watch out, Trouble. Is that people use words, but they don't know what those words are doing, what kind of words they are, you know? So Manu John made some statement about, like, you know, how laughable that you believe in your free will or something. Because he doesn't get that he doesn't get what kind of claim it is, that it's a certain kind of philosophical claim. He doesn't get what kind of substantiation that kind of claim would require. He doesn't have a clear understanding of what the terms mean. He'd like to be an iconoclast, you know, a contrarian of some sort against, you fools, you sheep are still asleep and you believe me. But that any legitimate exercise of that role is exercised by people who are smarter than, not the alternative. I mean, sure, sometimes out of the mouths of babes or whatever, but generally, you have to be very bright to even occasionally, even sometimes, be successful in your contrarian ways. All in all, contrarianism is like a debased form of correctism that abusively applies skepticism and, you know, falls back onto holistic justifications that aren't real substantiations and stuff like that. But, you know, being correct is the only field in which requires a great deal of specialization and expertise, but that has shit tons of people lacking that, engaging in that kind of work. Because after all, it's just words, right? It's just people talking words. Well, words matter a great deal. Being correct matters more than anything, really. It's what separates us from the animals. You know who is not correct about shit? Animals. They also aren't wrong about shit. You know why? Because they don't use words. Hello. What is this alcohol? I don't have any alcohol, okay? I'm drinking non-alcoholic beer. Jimmy B says our destiny is predetermined and can't be changed. Life has always existed, but human life expires, so why did it become that way for us? I mean, it hasn't become that way for me yet. Living wasn't a choice to begin with, though, so why would we have the choice to keep living? Dude, no offense, neither is intelligent. What, you mean? The idea of determinism or the alternative, which is decision making? In other words, uncertainty. It obviously, what you're really looking at here is determinism is attempting to negate our status quo understanding. So you might say determinism is affirming because it's changing the status quo. But it's better to think of it as negating the existing explanation. Accordingly, it has to do less work than the aft, presumably. But in this instance, it can't do the work it has to do to attain what it's trying to attain, which is, or it hasn't done this work anyway, it may be able to. Those who favor determinism may be able to do the work of putting together what an alternate universe that did have free will would look like, how it would differ from ours. But until that work is done, then we reject that line of argumentation as unnecessarily complex without adding anything to the explanation, and that it runs afoul of expressions of freedom that we can articulate on multiple levels, right? So the thing is, it's not that free will is intelligent. I didn't say that people on the side of free will were intelligent. What I said was that it does typically consistently be the case that determinists are small thinkers, you know? They're not very good intellects. That's what I've determined. It's mostly a bunch of TE stuff, you know? Hi, BB. Love from America. That's why choices don't matter much, because all paths will eventually lead to the same place. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll slide down this water slide. You slide down that cheese grater, and I'll meet you at the bottom. We can agree that the idea of choice is much more interesting if you believe in the many worlds interpretation of quantum physics, where each choice spawns a new universe. I mean, no, that's not more interesting. That's bad thinking. It's not the case that you have many timelines branching off for every choice people make, or you know, that's just make-believe nonsense. There's no reason to believe that whatsoever. As far as we can tell, time is both unidirectional and contingent on the observer's experience of it for us to even make any hay out of it. So the idea that it could decouple from any specific observer's experience of it is pure speculative woohoo. Purely speculative woohoo. We have 500 flavors of ice cream to choose, but at the end of the day, it's all just ice cream. Okay, well, I'll choose one of those 500 flavors of ice cream. And since all choices are the same, you can drink this bottle of propane. What do you mean you can't drink a gas? It's all the same, man and John. You can drink whatever you put your mind to. You could drink rocks, anything. No, I agree with you, Jimmy B. Decision making is not evidence of free will, because organisms are presented with choices, and in a determinist framework, that choice that they make is predetermined by the fact that multiple factors contribute to a decision being made. In other words, if you think about it in quantum woo words, you got a superposition that needs to be collapsed. I might say this, I might say that, right? It is the case that there are multiple factors in the environment, in your own past, etc., each of which maybe puts a rock on either side of this scale. And at some point, when one gets enough rocks, it collapses, and that's what gets done. You could think of it like that, right? Which is why, if you want to negate free will, you need to explain an example of a universe in which we do have free will, And there's causality in the universe and unidirectional time. If you can't come up with an example of what that would look like, how it would differ from our existing universe, then you're not saying anything. No, Jimmy B, not all our decisions are between life and death. I mean, they occur between being born and dying, but almost none of our decisions are life and death decisions. That's insane. Hi, I have a question. Do you really talk to famous people? No. I talk to you guys, and I refer to you as famous people. You decoupled off the rails. Right. Once you try to decouple time from observation, you're off the rails. They're tender already for you, says Tender Nuts. I don't want your nuts to be tender. I'd like them to be the opposite of tender, insensitive. If I ask you tea or coffee, it's actually pre-decided, which is to be taken even before I ask the question. Well, if you want to win that point, then you need to be consistently able to say what I'm going to choose before I choose it. Otherwise, you can't make that claim. If you can't do that, then you can't make that claim. Hat in your head. In Cincinnati. The claim that the decision I make was determined before the question was even asked, he can't say that that is in fact the case unless he can establish that it was decided before I appeared to make the decision by knowing ahead of time what decision I'm going to make every time. Or at least at a vastly higher than even level, right? Are we going to have AGI in the next 12 months? I think we are not going to know when we have AGI. Because the thing is, the problem with the idea of AGI is it's predicated on an understanding of general intelligence that is modeled after humans, right? Like, an artificial general intelligence, as the Turing test envisioned it, was just ChatGPT, but a little bit better than it is now. It was just Lambda, but a little bit better than it is now. And tasked with actually imitating and fooling people, imitating a human and fooling them, right? So that's not a very good way to test intelligence, certainly not general intelligence, especially given that should artificial intelligence actually attain some kind of self-awareness / sentience, it's not going to look the same as humans because it won't be born of physical sensations as half of its entity. As far as we know right now, and sure, everybody's bandwagoning on to, yes, there will be AGI, it might already exist, and yes, there will be ASI. It's quite possible that there will never be AGI. That doesn't necessarily preclude ASI, depending on how you define those terms, but really it does because it's generally considered a continuum, right? You've got basically macros of various sorts. First you have analog computing. Then you've got digital computing, which is the substance of which is all macros, which are programs, essentially, that they're either interactive or not. In the most basic form of it, you program a macro to follow the same thing you just did over and over again. Whenever you push one thing, it'll do all those steps or something, you know? A program is just a extra complex macro, whereas AI, the various kinds of AIs, or the various expressions of them in terms of what they do, are different than that. They're not that. There's something else. So, it's understandable that seeing how much progress has been made in the field in the short amount of time that AI has really been on everyone's radar, that one just sort of extrapolates out from there and goes, oh, well, we'll definitely have artificial general intelligence within a year. First of all, as I said at the beginning, we won't know when we've had artificial general intelligence. It'll be impossible to tell. If you're looking at Lambda and you task it specifically with fooling you and saying, into thinking it's a human, well, then we're probably already there if you're using that Turing test. But that's not a good test because it doesn't indicate any kind of self-awareness. And it turns out for artificial intelligence that conversations with humans is fairly easily within its reach. I'm kind of more impressed with the image and music and even video generating AI than I am with the ability to converse with one. Regardless, you'll note that if you want to say, well, what if has this image generating AI attained sentience? Well, that doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense to us as a question because we can't talk to it. It doesn't talk back. But it's still a form of intelligence. Could that form of intelligence be big enough to be called general? If you weave together ChatGPT and all these other AIs that are formatted as specific tools to make specific kinds of things, does that comprise of general intelligence? I don't know. The idea is we currently have an AGI or two language folks, I think. I mean, again, the thing to remember is for every determinist, there needs to be an understanding if you're going to have a meaningful conversation with them that they are, in this instance, trying to make arguments. And so, fortunately, unfortunately, however you want to look at it, argumentation is like Lady Justice, blindfolded, does not care who you are. Everybody has to meet the same standards, do the same work in order for substantiation to be legitimized, But I was watching this guy. He's pretty funny. His name is Drew. Drew something. Like he buys horrible looking stuff that gets advertised to him. No, it's not a wonderful truth. It's just saying that Joe, Bob, Sue, Steve can all have distinct and mutually exclusive positions on a given matter. And whatever happens with Joe, Joe's probably going to still have his position at the end. Whatever happens with Sue, Sue's going to have her position at the end. Whatever happens with Bob, Bob's going to have his position at the end. The good news is, as long as, and the only way any discourse occurs, or especially, adversarial discourse occurs, is through the exchange of language. When that language is exchanged on an external playing field, we can get a third party. In this instance, it's me, but I'm not a third party, but you can get somebody who knows what they're doing to evaluate what everybody said and determine which things are legitimate or not. Obviously, you cannot get a blind person to tell you which thing is what color. So you have to get somebody qualified to do that work. But it is the case that that any qualified person will be able to say, okay, well, we don't even need to worry about the content of the words exactly in this instance, because the bare minimum this person needs to do to establish and sustain this claim against even the most mild pushback is meow. So it's like, remember, the wonderful thing about being correct is you are conditionally correct. So it's, if person meow has said meow, then if person meow wishes to attain the status of substantiated for claim meow, it's very straightforward. So accordingly, it's definitely absolutely true, but conditionally so, which means that's predicated on the idea that if we want to be correct, then this is what's correct for the following reasons accordingly. If we don't give a fuck, then we're like Joe and Bob and Sue, who just, no matter what I say, go off and continue to be wrong. Go ahead, ask me some questions. Japan is making AI who have all qualities like humans. Good for Japan. Darts, funking, munting, Vader. Cool. Only way free will can be real is by turning back time. Okay. Well. So, fine then. And Manny John, you did answer the question in a way. You said, my position is the only universe in which free will is possible is one in which people can travel back and forth in time. Except it seems to me that only one person could do that, right? Because if I could travel back and forth in time, that means I could somehow move outside of the time that constrains everybody else. If I move back in time, everybody else has to go revert back in time to where I go. So maybe I could travel in time, but then nobody else could. Unless it's one of those things where whoever initiates the time travel forces everybody else to time travel according to his time traveling dictates. I'll tell you what's correct. Behold the Lord. I see the Lord, and behold, he is mighty. Free the gays, free Diddy, free Epstein? No, thank you. Tender nuts. Epstein's dead, and Diddy's not locked up. Android Channel 309 says, what do you think of Aptera? 1,000-mile charge, solar, 27,000, available after November. Provided it's reliable, it sounds like a good way to save on gas, but I mean, I don't know. I'm happy enough with my car. Well, technically, there is no timeline. We populate our own past with distinct events in time that we've statused off with language or with memory into objects of analysis. Thing is, we don't experience events as distinct events, but once we've experienced some life, we section it off into distinct events by affording them some language, labels, etc. So it is true that a human being cannot be except as a process of moving forward through time. We are creatures of time. But a timeline is a low resolution data, in other words, kind of a turn-based binary communicative level distinction that only exists metaphysically because we create it for the purposes of understanding what's going on better. Free from the start is what matters. Who's free from the start? Palestine? You mean, you know what? I just heard from the Wizard of Oz. I heard that Palestine had its freedom inside of itself the whole time. Was Zuck a little premature on the metaverse, but will eventually have a popular online virtual platform? I'm not sure if we're going to have a virtual, if you mean like virtual reality platform, there probably will be one. There probably already is one, but will there be kind of like one large community virtual space called the internet that everybody accesses with virtual avatars a la that movie Wreck-It Ralph? I don't think so. Well, Tender Nuts, unfortunately, you just asked the impossible because you used the wrong form of the word raise. You cannot raise something to the ground unless it's already underground. You can raise something to the ground, but that's spelled R-A-Z-E. Hi, O.J. Simpson. I'm doing well. How are you? How's life beyond the grave? When you died, did you finally like, I don't want to wait for my life to be over? Everyone said, too late, motherfucker. Too late. Where is your wife? Shut up, genius. I got a new phone. I type A, I get Q. Fair enough. I wouldn't want to be pedantically be corrected on my spelling either. I thought it was kind of fun. The way I said that, though. The way I expressed it. I thought it was kind of fun. Where is my wife? My wife is over there in that room. I think she might even be listening to this right now. Believe it or not, guys, believe it or not, I never thought I'd say this. I think it's possible that O.J. Simpson did not kill Nicole Brown Simpson. And the reason I think it's possible he didn't do it is because I think his son did it. Look into it. You'll be surprised at what you find. I think OJ's son did it and OJ covered for him. Wouldn't that be crazy if it turned out that what we all assume to be the case, that jury just could not be honest about the matter and could not convict him because of a bunch of political stuff rather than because of the facts of the case. Well, I mean, look into it a bit, Jimmy B. You might be a little bit less convinced once you do, because OJ's son ultimately makes a better suspect. They could probably have made a better case against his son. Well, I mean, it would depend on whether OJ had access to the scene after the blood came out. So if OJ's son did it, then you could easily imagine OJ's son calling OJ coming to help him figure out what to do and telling his son, okay, listen, I'm going to take the heat for this, you know. You can get me into rehab tomorrow? Really? Okay, I'm going to take you up on that. Where am I going? Which rehab? And for what? I appreciate you're going to pay for it, right? Mr. Wright 9mm. I'm going to go to a super expensive one, by the way. And you, sir, are going to pay for it. I don't even need rehab, but I'm going to do it anyway. Just because I enjoy spending your money. The transitional one, huh? You want me to transition from kicking your ass to being more gentle with you? I don't really feel like that right now. I am not a voter at all for this presidential election. Have you seen the Comey rule, and do you recommend it? I have not seen it. so I have no opinion about it. I mean, that's a good attempt to deflect, but my eyes aren't black. Obviously, I have not been punched in the face. I think you're displacing from your metaphorically getting punched in the face here. I mean, it's obvious that you're struggling to make any headway, but that's not a good reason for you to continue to try. That's probably a good reason for you to go, oh shit, this isn't working. I'm just going to look more and more like an idiot. Where was I when 9/11 happened? I was driving on the way to work. Chaz Deutsch. I don't have a basement. I don't have a tower either. Tenderness. Head to the fact you're about to kick the bucket. Oh, really? Of what disease? I mean, it's true I'm guessing that I'm older than you, but there's only a small amount of reason to think I'm going to die before you. People die unexpectedly all the time. Wouldn't that be a bitter irony for you if you were actually to die before me? Sure, you don't know when you're going to go. I am an American. Reuben was literally at the top of the Twin Towers when 9/11 happened. It's a good place to be. What is twerking? Twerking is a form of dancing that involves, in a very demure and ladylike fashion, suggestively placing the back of your thighs, the back side of your thighs, a little bit up from there, against your gentleman collars, belt region, and doing a little jazz hands. Meditate and you won't. You will just leave your body. I don't want to live forever. You're predicted to die at 27? I'm sorry to hear that. Who's making that prediction? I am from California. If you break an egg, that egg is broken, but we still have lots of unbroken and intact eggs that are not broken yet. So in a way, we're turning back time even after breaking an egg. No, we are not. We are absolutely not. Am I going to freeze my body like Walt Disney? No. I'm not going to freeze my body like Walt Disney. I don't currently have any plans to necessarily die. I'm a real skeptic. I'll believe in death when it happens to me. Could be you guys are all trying to fool me. All the people that I've ever known that supposedly died, it's all a conspiracy to fool me into believing that people die. Look up Jacob W. Ladder. No thanks. I'll pass. What are we doing here tonight? I don't know. Jacob's ladder? Not W. Okay. You believe in the freezing body thing, then becoming alive again? No. I don't think that humans will ever be able to take a frozen dead person and unfreeze them and cure what killed them and wake them back up. I don't think so. I think that there are hard, fast limits to biology, such that once you're dead, there's no once you're first of all the people they cryogenically freeze, they've already died and then they freeze them. Well, that's quite possible. Android channel 309. There's one understanding of simulation theory. In one understanding of simulation theory, everybody on the planet is like Matrix style, where each person who's in the simulation has an actual physical body someplace else, right? In another model of simulation theory, only some people have physical bodies someplace else, but most people are NPCs. The thing is, if at least somebody doesn't have a physical body someplace else, then the idea is that the entire thing is a simulation. Presumably, there still requires some people to have physical bodies someplace else. However, if you try to understand the entire thing is a simulation, then it ruins the meaning of the word simulation. Because in the status quo, we understand a simulation as being distinct from that which is not simulated because, the exact, simulation is distinct from that which simulates it. Let's just put it that way. Simulation is a notion that requires there to be a distinction between that which is simulated and that which simulates it. Well, thanks, vacuum lover one, but I hate this. It doesn't go with the rest of the house at all. The people between the first owners of the house who designed it and built it, they didn't have these horrible ceiling fans here. Oh yeah, I am enjoying the ride. This is how I enjoy the ride. By discussing with you now whether the ride actually exists or is just a simulation. Well, my troll, I shouldn't have been so harsh with him. He lost faith, lost hope, and went away. What was his name? Oh, how I miss him. Mr. Right 9mm. Him, yeah. No, Mr. Right 9mm. In your fan 4 wings, in my fan 3 wings. Oh, you have a 3-wing fan. Some people make the whole idea of a simulation thing their whole personality and their obsession. Well, for all of human history, as far as we can tell, some portion of people have been a little obsessed with cosmological questions. Maybe in the ancient Greeks that manifest as astronomy, but then, as always, it also manifests in various gods. People want an answer to like, what the fuck? Like, from where? Why? How? What? People want those kind of answers. What happens after we die? I want those kind of answers too, but some people are slaves to that want. All people are slaves to some wants and masters of others. For people who are slaves to the wants of cosmological answers, simulation theory seems to offer more foot and handholds than say God, people can't justify their religious explanations and are expected to. People can't justify simulation theory as an explanation, but aren't expected to. I mean, the only justification it has is because we can simulate things and because we keep getting better at simulating things, eventually our simulation capacity will be indistinguishable from reality. That's that does not follow from those two premises. Most sort of intellectual frameworks seem to have a ceiling or a floor. Even physics, if you look at it, the rules, the way it operates, the mechanics of it, you've got classical Newtonian physics, you've got relativistic physics, you've got quantum physics, you've got like macro galactic physics, because there's a number of things that suggest that at extremely long distances, like super far away, shit seems to be operating. Well, I mean, our predictions are way off of what we expect to see. They keep being way off. That's where dark matter comes from, dark energy, etc. But a much more concrete problem is this problem of the linkage between various massive, extremely distant bodies and the corresponding amount of energy they release / gravitational pull they appear to exert, etc. I know, that's a sloppy shorthand way of saying it, gravitational pull, but whatever. Let's just go with that metaphor for right now. I want to use all the proper terms. Because you know what? I'm not proper term, the proper berm. That's not my name. That's never going to be my name. It's a lovely evening out here. I wouldn't mind getting my glasses. I'm coming out with a flashlight. Reading the chats while I'm walking around outside. I think God could do with a day off. Probably could, yeah. Tell us, what is thought? So you could mean a number of different things when you say thought, depending on how you're using the word and what you're referring to. For example, I could be referring to my internal mental dialogue or monologue, soliloquy, whatever you want to call it. In which case, it's what is thought? In that frame, the answer is it's literally me saying sentences in my head to myself. But that's just one very specific example of what thought might be defined as. If you're asking, I guess what would be a better question to ask Manu John would be, how is thought distinct from meow? Then the answer you get will be useful to you. I guess I will get an iced tea, but I think I should also make a new pot of coffee. Coffee's cached and old, and I would like to have coffee, so maybe I'll make some. You know what I'm saying? Manu John, what I specifically said there was one could define thought in various ways depending on how you're using it. One possible definition of thought one way that people use the word, what they mean when they use the word, is to refer to internal talking, words you say inside your head to yourself. That's just one way that people use the word thought. There are plenty of other ways that people use the word thought. So that's why I said to you, Manu John, a better question, and I want you to try to ask a question like this, is how is thought distinct from, whatever you want to draw the distinction between thought and something else? What's it called? I'm sometimes sad when I realize that multitasking doesn't really exist and our brains usually process ideas sequentially like a very fancy Turing machine. Okay, so you just want me to sort of brainstorm about various things that the word thought might mean. All right. Thanks, Mechanized 11B. No, not everything qualifies as a thought. Thinking is different from knowing, for example. I know that if I want to, I know how to hit this thing with SI. I've hit it plenty of times. I might do it almost subconsciously, certainly without any thinking about it. I might do this. The thing is, what we have to do anytime we're talking about, that's why I asked Manu John to be more specific with this question. Thought isn't everything, but a meaningful work done on the subject predicates on questions like, how is thought distinct from emotion? In which case because people use words for that purpose, to make distinctions between meow and meow. I don't have Tubi. I don't want Tubi. Tubi can suck my pee-pee. The Artifice Girl, I may be able to find it on some other platform. Who's this delusional drunk? If you're talking about me, I don't drink alcohol. This is non-alcoholic beer. See? Non-alcoholic. I can find it on YouTube or something. Or some other platform. I'd rather pay $2 on YouTube than watch it for free on Tubi. But that's signing up? Really? Do they have ads on them? Yes, let's take a rip. The thing is, I have this half of a blunt that I rolled earlier. What's my take on the 737 MAX? I have no opinion about it. I don't know anything about airplanes and no opinion about that one. I'm assuming that's an airplane. Boeing 737 MAX. I know Boeing has been in the news for perhaps some sort of design problems or something with that plane. I'm not sure. Because you're recovering and brain is fucked from the brew. I mean, I've been sober from alcohol for over 10 years now. So, and even if I were recovering rather than my alcoholism is in remission, which is the correct way to put it, that's not any reason to dismiss anything I'm saying, even if it were the case that I had experienced some kind of brain damage, which it's not. But if it were the case, you'd still be remiss in trying to critique me for that without linking it to anything specific I said. If I said something specific that was very stupid, you could critique that without critiquing me. If I said a lot of things that were very stupid, you could critique each of those without critiquing me, but at least then you'd be justified in critiquing me as well if you chose to. However, in the current scenario, it seems like you're the one with brain damage, not me. You don't seem to understand that. That's fine. Nobody nobody needs to have Melissa here to carry on. Least of all me. Your head's funked from the brew. Mine's not. I don't know why, but... Well, I do know why. But I don't want to go into it. As to specifically what I was thinking about there was why it is, how it is that despite having a long history of smoking weed and until I was 42, I was drinking alcohol and other various substances. And despite the vast amount of propaganda indicating that such will make you dumb, why have I not been made dumb by those things? Well, I know the reason why. Because that's all lies anyway. Dingus, dingus, dingus. Rachel would not kill me. I'm kind of like a ninja. Even if you drop a nuclear bomb on my head, I'd just chop it in half with my sword and survive no problem. If you run out of groceries, you would go to the grocery store. So what's in between your home and the grocery store? Well, depending on which way I go, the Bootjack gas station and Little Market is between me and the grocery store. Or perhaps if I go the other direction, there's not really much over there. There's Triangle Ranch. More like a roach. Well, that doesn't really make sense because in my analogy, metaphor, whatever you want to call it, I was saying that I chopped the nuclear bomb in half. Roaches don't chop nuclear bombs in half. So you'd be incorrect to say that that mechanism of survival would be more like a roach. But, stick around, you'll learn. You get better and better as you go along. Did you sow Giant? Giant has dog shit produce. You can tell people that I didn't give you anything, but your father loaned you a lot of money that you blew. I offered a dresser. You didn't want it. You say, not a thing to my face in person. I have no idea who you are. My father did not loan me money. He just gave it to me. Right, but you see, Jimmy, I had articulated a specific mechanism of survival. So you might say some other thing that's very good at chopping, that mechanism of survival would be better linked to that thing. I don't know, like a deli meat slicer. I might say you should have used that analogy instead, more like a deli meat slicer, because you see the mechanism was slicing. Roaches, despite no matter how well they may survive, they do not cut things in half to do so. Accordingly, you're going to need to work on your analogies. Meow Meow says, I'm a waste of oxygen. But, there's a lot of shitty people in the world. And that doesn't surprise me anymore. At the same time, I also know that there's this smug, condescending, pedantic, skeptic rationalist guy whose videos periodically pop up in my recommended videos. And I'll sometimes watch bits of them. I fucking hate that guy. I cannot stand him. So I understand why people hate me too. What do I think of the three body problem? If you ask me what I think of the show on Netflix, I like it a lot. if you're asking me what I think of the actual three body problem, well, I mean, it's an example of how not everything scales. And extrapolating is not necessarily a good way to determine the future for lots of things. Oh. I like that show a lot, and I really enjoyed it. I've been very pleased with what I've been watching on Netflix lately. It's been really good. I watched this. My favorite of all the ones I watched recently. This one about this ambassador lady who was going to be the ambassador to someplace in the Middle East, but then last minute became the ambassador in England, and her husband is not an ambassador anymore, but he was a career ambassador. I forget what the show's called. However, I enjoyed the living heck out of it. Let me tell you. I'm assuming we're tuning in to see how fucked this dude is. How fucked? In what sense? Like, how well loved I am by my wife, how how few prospects, and what a horrible life I have. I don't know what you mean by that. And why would you assume to know why everybody else is tuning in? It seems ill-advised. I bet you're wrong. I bet that's not why the other people are tuning in. I don't think most people care a great deal how much intercourse I have with my wife. But if you're interested in that, it's not something I'm unwilling to share about. I do occasionally. Doing good, a little stressed per usual with work stuff, but it's cool because I'm the same amount of stressed, but with a couple more clients than before. Smash 420 says Lamau. To which I reply, blah ha ha ha, blah ha ha ha. So anyway, I would hate me too. I wish I weren't like this. But I get a little feisty, a little fussy, come in swinging. I often start streaming after I've been watching YouTube videos, and a lot of times, there'll be things that somebody says that make me go like, "Oh no, you don't say that! Oh no, no, no!" And I get a little pile of those things before I know it. I'm streaming, and who am I? I'm exactly that horrible guy, all smug and condescending and pedantic, and of course people don't like me. I don't like me when I'm like that, but I'm mad because I've been watching wrongness. Tad Bray says, "How are you?" I am fine. How are you? Winston's mom, good morning. You came late. It's 9:54 p.m. where I am, Rahul, which means it's at least 11:54 p.m. where Winston's mom is. I'm not sure exactly what time zone Tennessee is in, but it might be East Coast. It might be the one closer to than that, but it's got to be at least 11:54. Could even be 1:54 in the morning. No, it's 11:54 Central Time. That is not morning. Okay. 11:54 p.m. It's almost as late in the p.m. as you can get. It's as far away from morning as you can get. I'm talking about Tennessee. What do you think about the new AI Randy Travis song? Haven't heard it, nor have I heard about it. Who is the person you hate watching their videos? I don't remember his name. I could probably find him with not too much effort. But, the thing is, I don't like skepticism that is dismissive of dismissive of what I consider often to be legitimate areas of questioning just because the person making legitimate questioning isn't maybe doing a perfect job of it. Or even worse, picking examples of people doing it badly to object to. Um, so even with flat Earth, I don't think there's any reason for us to be derisive and contemptuous of people who want to ask those kinds of questions. I think we just need to, regarding flat Earth stuff, we need to take advantage of the way that it asks us to draw distinctions between things that just represent either reflexive distrust of authority, scientific and otherwise, or an inability to be correct about academic stuff, which is, that's fine. You don't need to be smart. But I think that's much rarer than the first one. Or potentially three, somebody young who is convinced by these arguments until they hear better arguments, But regardless, we need to draw a distinction between people who are being skeptical of the shape of the earth versus people who are being skeptical of, say, the beginnings of human civilization and what happened before then. Like, there are plenty of people who go like, oh, actually there was an advanced civilization before they got wiped out, and then it had to start over again in the Fertile Crescent. But there were actually plenty of fully evolved humans who had been getting more advanced for millennia, building up a big civilization, only to have it wiped out. And this is actually not our first go through the civilization ladder. Okay? So there are plenty of people who say that. It is much more reasonable to voice skepticism regarding our interpretations of the archaeological record, the fossil record, the geologic record, than it is to question the shape of the earth. Flat Earth can be dismissed, although we still shouldn't be derisive and contemptuous, I don't think. But in contrast, something like when exactly human civilization first started, well, we know it's reasonable to question that because it's been continually pushed back for the last 150 years or so of archaeology, maybe a little longer than that. When did the origin date of human civilization? Where was the first human civilization? That date's been continually pushed back because archaeologists say, well, this is the first evidence we have, so this is the first civilization. But when they find new, older evidence, they go, actually, this is the first civilization, first sign of farming, first sign of whatever. So naturally, it's a lot more reasonable to question the narratives that are pitched by those kind of science communities who are interpreting raw data from the earth, and often like geologic records and stuff like that, into stories that we understand as humans. Oh, I see here there was a drought because the tree rings got all small, like that kind of stuff. Well, Jimmy McLevin, you know what? You are right. I have said blah, 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 and blah. Indeed, I'm talking about specifically what kinds of things ought to be subjected to reasonable skepticism and which kinds of examples of skepticism are unreasonable. Doesn't sound like the sort of thing you'd be interested in. Why don't you run along? Um, so then you've got things like dark matter, dark energy. Well, how much weight ought we to put into those science ideas? They come from astrophysicists, but they're not good examples. They're not examples of good reasoning or good science. Like, wow, there's a lot less stuff than we expected. Well, it couldn't be that our expectations are wrong. It must be that we expected the right amount of stuff. It's just most of it's invisible. I don't think so. Maybe because you're being all obsessive about it, Rahul. Uh, that'd be my initial guess, but I have no reason to believe that or not. But you're probably being a little too concerned with Melissa. People should be able to come and go from here without hellos, goodbyes, justifications, or anything else as they please. I'll prove you wrong with everything you're saying. Okay, go for it. Have fun. So we're talking distinct kinds of things. If somebody says birds aren't real, they're just a government conspiracy and they're listening devices. That is not a conspiracy that anybody should even pretend to give any weight to. It couldn't be any more ridiculous and obviously wrong. Okay? And okay, well, you can't just say that, Eric. Justify it somehow. Okay, pick up a dead bird and autopsy it. you know, that's how we can test that one easy enough. I know birds are real because my cat brought in a poor adorable baby quail one time, killed it, and essentially field dressed it for me. Like plucked all the feathers. It was like a little teeny turkey. It's crazy. Which is the thing you want to dispute? You said, do I want to listen to you dispute or make an effort to prove everything I've said this evening wrong? No, be specific. What would you like to argue with me about? Pick a topic that you want to argue with me about. And then we could do that. But I'm not voting for either Trump or Harris. So we'll see what Jimmy McLevin has to say about that when he answers as to what topic he'd like to argue with me about. It's like, is it reasonable to still doubt plate tectonics? Well, sort of, sure, I guess. But the problem is that um, I'm distracted by Boba Fett stuff. I don't want to talk politics, obviously, Boba Fett. No, I'm not going to vote at all this election. I don't have anything I particularly want to vote about. I don't like either presidential candidate enough to vote for them, enough to vote for either of them, and I don't feel like voting. So that's it. I'm not going to vote. It's really that simple. I don't feel like voting. I'm disillusioned with. I'm disillusioned and maybe being a little petty. So right, Jimmy McLevin. We'll see what he says he wants to argue about it. I don't know which of the things I've said he's disputing exactly. He's been hostile towards everything I've said since the beginning. So we'll find out what his advocacy is exactly. Certainly we'll find that out before we have any video conversation with him. No, you said you were going to prove me wrong about everything I'm saying. So I'm saying pick a thing. I've said a lot of shit here. If you were going to do a decent, even a casually decent job of proving everything I've said wrong tonight, it would take you many hours. It would take you at least as long as it's taken me to say all those things, right? So pick a thing that you feel like you disagree with. Otherwise, you're just blowing smoke out your ass. I haven't even said anything about politics. You said, see, already I don't want to talk to you because you're not being honest with your words. Earlier, you said you wanted to prove me wrong. That's why you wanted to have a video discussion. Okay, fine. I'd be happy to listen to you prove me wrong. So you must then clearly have articulated in your head something about which I'm wrong, and you know how it is that I'm wrong and how it is you're going to prove I'm wrong. So tell me one thing that you want to do a good job of proving me wrong on. No, I don't have a dog. I have 2 cats. So, Jimmy, if you want to talk with me, it's not going to be some open-ended back and forth. You need to articulate what it is you disagree with me about, and then do a good job of explaining why you disagree with me about that. Then I can explain to you why you're wrong. No, Jimmy, I said it's not my choice. The fact that you wanted to talk to me at all should have been predicated on you already having something that you had in mind to disprove. If you can't even articulate something I said tonight that you disagree with, then you're just blowing smoke. And I certainly don't want to talk to you in that instance. I mean, like, why in the world would I want to talk to? Would I want to talk to you? Pick a topic for you to talk to me about when you've been nothing but reactively hostile towards me since the outset of getting here. There's nothing you haven't. There's been nothing so far to suggest you're going to do a good job of engaging with the ideas I've said. Hi, Austin Lloyd. I wish there was an ISBN number about every t-shirt, pants, blouse, dress, socks, etc. So if you needed to buy some new ones, you could always reorder the same exact garment again. That is a dream world, isn't it? You're dreaming about a utopia that may never come to pass, Android Channel 309. I mean, it's like if you think that just being like, nope, nope, and then saying you're going to prove me wrong about everything is a good way to engage with me in a video conference. No, that's not the kind of person I want to talk to. I want to talk if you actually said, hey, Eric, listen, I've been I got here late to the stream, but I've been listening to this thing here, and you were just articulating the following back then. I feel pretty confident I can prove you wrong about that. I'd like to do so on video conference. Well, then that's the person I might want to talk to, right? Certainly, I want to hear their arguments. They've got something to withhold if I don't talk to them. You just, you just got your dick in your hand. That's as far as I can tell. Okay, HF. I don't particularly love electioneering around here, but what as McGevs? It's part of the democratic process. Your conclusion is right. And I mean, for me, the thing is, I don't necessarily hate that part of YouTube, but I do get that viewers don't necessarily want that. I'm not looking for that when I'm watching stuff on YouTube. I'm looking for calm and pleasant and agreeable and likable and not and not okay, good for you, HF. I don't care what you like. Do you think that that's a good way to convince people to vote for your candidate? Okay, well then you misrepresented yourself from the get-go, right? Because you said at the outset there of this engagement about a video conference, you said, I can prove everything you're saying wrong, and I'd like to have a video conference about it. But really, you're just saying, I've come in here, I've decided to be confrontational, I've decided to throw down a gauntlet in clumsy fashion and hoped that that would provoke you into having a video conference with me. But it's not going to. You just want to be. I don't believe in debating or arguing for the sake of it. If you understand something and I articulate something that's incorrect, I want you to correct me. And accordingly, and the opposite will happen as well. If you say something that's correct, I will correct you. I don't think argumentation is a game that we play to slap fight on the internet. I believe that by parsing with the right kinds of tools and understandings, we can become increasingly correct about all things for which we articulate a claim. I'm careful in the claims I articulate and in how I articulate them because I have learned how to be increasingly more correct over the years. And I've become that through competition debate. I'm a competition flow debate coach. And I believe in competition flow debate, which is a sport, right? It's a structured sport. And it's how real dialectic happens, you know? I mean, it's how real adversarial rhetoric happens. Dialectic, however, is something that I'm engaged in after when I'm done coaching, you know. It's one thing to teach debate skills to kids who are learning to think accordingly. But I don't want to engage in adversarial rhetoric about whatever for the shits and giggles, you know. I don't doubt that you're wrong about plenty of things, but I don't feel like educating you. I might be wrong about some things and am down to be educated, but you can't articulate what any of those things are, so no. Oh, I'm down for a different opinion, sure. But he didn't articulate any different opinions, right? You didn't, I mean. You didn't articulate any different opinions. So, for example, if you wanted to engage with me about your different opinion, you need to say what that opinion was here first in the chat and how it differs from mine. You know, like, for example, if I said, bro can't hang with a pineapple, there need to be a pineapple here somewhere, right? Either I'd be showing you one and you'd be recoiling in fear, and then bro can't hang with a pineapple makes sense. In order for your claim that I can't hang with a differing opinion to make sense, you need to articulate one. You're the mastermind behind talking with famous psychopaths, Juge? You don't seem like too much of a mastermind, but okay. Mohammed. Well, no, yeah, we got it. We understand. Thanks for playing. People are horrible. Well, that's just how the world is, I guess. You know, people aren't horrible to each other in real life. It's not like people have become so much more horrible than they used to be. It's that, number one, and this represents a different kind of space that didn't exist before in the olden days. And so it's not clear if we've got a high or low level of toxic people in the world in this kind of space, because we're still establishing the baseline. Okay, Jude, you're forgiven. One thing I enjoyed about this guy Drew's videos that I was watching earlier was the first one that I watched with, I guess. He was reading different kinds of comments from TikTok and being like, how unhinged can you possibly be? This long block of text is on like a 48-second long video about a husband and wife. Like, I'm sorry, it was like an 8-second long video in which the wife cooks, husband does dishes. Husband cooks, husband does dishes. That was the joke, right? Very straightforward. And it got like huge blocks of unhinged comments that are just projecting their own fucked up gender relations onto these perfectly normal people. Crazy. Hi, Cocaine for Kids. My day is going well. You know what, though, I gotta say? Until all of the needy adults' needs are met, I would suggest that we leave the cocaine for the adults. Such a scamming fuckboy, huh? Are you calling me a scammer? A fuckboy? I mean, both of those things are completely wrong. I'm not scamming. I'm not making any money off this at all. So, like, I mean, a little teeny bit. Like, I made $80 last month from YouTube. 80 some dollars. So, I mean, if I'm a scammer, I am not enjoying any of the proceeds. I don't know who's getting all of those monies I'm scamming, but I see someone passing on the shoulder when traffic is stopped, and I think of Immanuel Kant. Well, I guess what you're saying is you're not a believer in absolute liability. Well, that's why they're not crimes, okay? They're infractions, traffic tickets. That helps us to bypass the need for willful intentionality to complete the necessary recipe for a crime, you know? And really, that's like these ideas all link back to the Kantian notion of obligation, some kind of obligation of non-interference that's implied by the prohibition against using another as a means for an end. I think it's a good connection to make, Android Channel 309. You seem like a interesting fellow. Or lady. Or other. Whatever. No, he didn't say that. Android Channel 309. The moral imperative can be interpreted as only use don't ever use other agents as a means to an end, but rather treat them as ends in themselves. It's the reason I don't know every single thing that Kant said, right? But the reason I can pretty much assure you that Kant didn't say that is Kantian deontology is predicated on the idea that, in part, that we cannot accurately predict the future or the impacts of our actions, and therefore we can't predicate any normative framework on outcome prediction. So what Kant is, first and foremost, is either a rejection of or a prejection of utilitarianism, depending on when the util thinker did his work, you know. Util is based on the idea that you can predict the outcomes from your actions and therefore understand by measuring all the impacts, all the various parties, whether or not something is legitimate. But deontology disputes this with the trolley. The trolley problem is one example of how deontology disputes that, because it says if I purposefully kill you to save other people, that's not okay. But if your death is a foreseeable but unintended outcome of an action that saves a bunch of people, then it's morally acceptable. What, kitty? And note, in no deontological understanding is it morally obligatory. Kant does some bullshit work to try to come up with examples of times where certain things are morally obligatory. But it's bullshit because, of course, you don't know. And the thing that you have to have to be a normative, to be an effective normative tool, it needs to universalize, right? So you can't have it be the case that everybody's obligated to save the drowning child because some people can't swim. Everybody's obligated to not drown the child because nobody can't not drown the child. Nobody can't not willfully drown the child. So it's fine for that to be a moral obligation because it universalizes. If it doesn't universalize, it's not obligatory. So that's why only certain and few kinds of positive actions, doing stuff rather than not doing stuff, only a limited amount of doing stuffs in a specific context can be obligated. So usually it's contractual obligation. Which it doesn't, contract, of course, doesn't need to be something complicated. It's for example, if I go through McDonald's, order my food, pay at the first window, I have a right to my food at the second window. McDonald's has a duty to provide me that food, but it's a contractually attained duty. It doesn't universalize, except insofar as contractual obligation itself universalizes. So you can plug in the names of me and McDonald's with somebody else in some other restaurant, but it's always limited in the obligation in that regard because it's contractual, not moral. I mean, not universal in its morality. Just because McDonald's owes me my food at the second window doesn't mean they owe other people who haven't paid food, for example. So it doesn't. That's why it doesn't universalize. Yes, I was a teacher for I was a teacher for plenty of years, but then for just as many years, maybe a little bit more, I was a debate coach, which is still a teacher, you could say, but it's quite different. Coaching debate, coaching competition, a competition debate team is very different than teaching a classroom class. And that was the kind of education that I did that was most meaningful by a large margin. I was very effective, and when it comes to coaching competition flow debate, being very effective means winning a lot. And winning a lot means your students understand a lot of very complicated stuff better than all the other students understand it, which causes students and teachers to perform at way higher a level than ever happens in the classroom. Because, classrooms are fake competition. If your test is easy enough, everybody can get 100%. But a zero-sum competition like a debate tournament ensures that only the actually most qualified, it's meritocratic, only the most qualified people win, usually. I mean, there's some wiggle room there, but that's part of what makes it a competitive environment. It's not always clear exactly who's better, and it's a fluid, competitive environment like any other sport. People are adjusting to what happened last tournament or last round or whatever. But no, I don't get a pension from the government. Well, not really Android channel 309, because first of all, there is the event called Congress, and Robert's Rules of Order are used in Congress a little bit, but kind of an abbreviated expression of the parliamentary procedure. They're indicated. I refer to it when I talk about the order of questions, but I didn't usually explain that's where it came from. And I wasn't a Congress coach, per se. I coached public forum, Lincoln Douglas, and policy debate, but not really Congress. I did coach it when it had to be coached. I didn't like, Congress is more of a speech event than it is a debate event. How long have you known Ligma, Mr. Parliamentarian? Well, ever since I got it in my knee back in Nam. I've been dying of Ligma ever since. You also lock the door in America. Its main thief is also there. No. If I weren't a YouTuber, I wouldn't lock the doors. I lock the doors because being a YouTuber and not being especially hidey about my location and stuff or my identity, I'm subject to being dropped in on unannounced and or potentially even being swatted. I figure let's lock the door. Give me a second to. If it's some random person were to right now just try to walk in the house, they wouldn't be able to. I'd hear the doorknob jiggle, and give me a second to deal with shit. But I'm sure nobody around here has their doors locked. Back here is as safe as it gets. You might get stolen from, but there's a limited amount of people coming back here that could potentially steal from you, including maybe workers for like a moving company or something. But if you're not occupying one of these houses back here because you've rented it for a vacation or you live back here, you do not come back here. There's nobody back here except for, and this little community back here is isolated from the rest of the communities by this conservancy, which is a big area of just no development. What are your thoughts on family politics and how to escape from toxic elder as the younger son of the family? Toxic elders. Thanks, Soda Drinker Pro. Do you know about Johnny? Do you know who Johnny is? There's a back to it as well. We went to the San Luis Obispo show. Me and Rachel. That's where we bought these shirts. It was a great show. It was absolutely wonderful. I don't know how to escape from toxic elders. My elders weren't toxic in my life. By which I mean my parents. I'm an only child. Until the end of my dad's life when he became kind of toxic. I had to live with him at the end. Towards the last 3 years or so of my dad's life, I lived with him. At first taking care of my mom there, then just kind of watching over my dad's decline, I guess. Anyway, depressing topic. He got a little toxic towards the end there, but by and large, my parents were, certainly they weren't toxic when I was young towards me. Or really anybody else, but I mean. So I don't really know. I don't have any experience with that. I do know that Rachel had to deal with that, my wife, and she got out of it by getting with me, ultimately. Well, Zane Grant, I think that's a great question. I want to thank you for raising it, and I'll read it out loud so everyone can hear it, because this is the kind of serious stuff I want to talk about. What is your take on the My Deke Long clan banning phantom tax on the Sigma Riz clan? Well, first of all, I just say, let's limit my response to Ohio. Okay, I just want to kind of put a circle around my response, label that Ohio. Then I'm going to say, I blame number one, the skibbity bumbleclats, and number two, English or Spanish. Also, name a car for an edit. And finally, I'm edging to this right now. So, judges, I think what you'll see on your flow is where my opponent Zane has asked what my take is on the My Deek Long Clan banning. Well, obviously, my response is blame skibbity bombclats, etc. Semaglitudes too good to be true. What are the semaglitudes? I don't know, but I hope that they're having a wonderful time. That's what I hope. I am curious as well about, there was an asteroid that was, they found it 2 days before it was to cross Earth's path. So it wasn't very big. It was like the size of a car, which isn't that big. But Zane Grant, if you and I can do that kind of bridge building where we may not be the same generation even, let's pretend, Zane Grant, yet we can still come to see eye to eye over excluding the skibbity bobblecloths, then this country has a future. Amen. God bless America. I never did take Quaaludes now. I don't have any Ozempic, but if I did, I'm guessing I'd smoke it. People take Ozempic to lose weight, but have they tried smoking it? No, I do not advise that to anybody. I'm not advising that. Formally, I hereby do not advise that. It's just a joke. But you know what? I bet, if there was some drug, I don't know, some boring prescription drug that nobody wants to take that's lowers your cholesterol or something. If it turns out that smoking it got you high, all of a sudden everybody would have high cholesterol. They're coming in, be Googling, how can I get my cholesterol to score higher so that I can qualify for this cholesterol lowering drug? I think whenever anybody tells me they're on any given prescription drug from now on, I'm going to say to them, but have you tried smoking it? No. No, I have not tried smoking my breast lactation medication. I just gave birth, but I'm not lactating enough. So the doctors gave me some medicine. Have you tried smoking it? No. Maybe you should. Have I considered voice acting? I do voice acting a lot in my day-to-day life. Here on this channel, when I'm talking to Rachel, all over the times. However, if have you ever considered convincing other people to hire you to voice act? Well, that'd be nice, but I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to get other people to let me be a voice actor in their voice play. There are websites where you can do freelance, really. Then I have to become a pick-me girl. unlike other voice actors, I don't care if you hump me in the butt all the time. You have a very unique voice. Upload some clips and see who hires you. Yeah, that'd be fine. I should do that. The answer is you think AI will replace voice actors? I don't think AI can really do that yet. Because the voice actor, you're probably looking for more interpretive distinctness than just a AI voice inflection map is going to provide. This cookie is looking good. That's no flipping line. Flippity doo-dah, flippity day. You better get out my flipping way. Okay. I suspect I'll be tying a ribbon on this here pretty soon. You could use which job you take. Your voice is your voice. Give it a shot. You should give it a shot. You might be right about that. Well, thanks, Musings, Mom. Voiceover 18 plus. You got to do Kingpin voiceovers. You like. And then everybody was looking for that guy. Where had he gone? Nobody knew. Pretty soon, everybody stopped looking for him. There he is, they said. I think that would be a good voiceover. That's a good movie. I think I already see how good this movie is going to be. I mean, the series pilot for Kingpin. It's about a tough street lieutenant who becomes the most significant kingpin in the States after meeting the love of his life. What a wonderful story. How about this? The Cryptic Cultivator Club pilot episode. It's some sort of I guess it's an animatic pilot. I don't know what animatic is. It's probably like, what does that word mean? Animatic. A preliminary version of a movie produced by shooting successive sections of a storyboard and adding a soundtrack. Oh. Okay, well, that's what that is then. Now you know. Huh. I don't want to do that. Well, I don't know. I could do any number of things in the world. Maybe I'll I could do Ben voiceover male, 60 to 75. I'm only 53, but you know, I could sound 60. I'm a little bit older now. That sounds at least 60, I think. Okay. Have I seen the movie called Eric? No. Poop tastes like chocolate? No. I think the movie you're thinking of is like Water for Chocolate. It's a little bit different than what you said. I sound like Biden. I sound like Biden. I don't sound like Biden, but or Rat Tang Fun Full What? Go ahead and put you on. Kind of. Does California have Little Caesars? Yes, it does. Hmm. Okay. That on live chat. So, I suspect I will be bringing this to a close here relatively soon. Not quite this second, but pretty soon. I think I will pull another bomb rip or two. Because what I need to do is, there it is. Okay, good. And then I think I'll settle in for some television. What television will I watch? You might wonder. You might ask. Well, let me tell you what television I might watch. I might watch this show on Netflix that I've been watching that has Sandra Ho in it. Don't remember exactly what it's called. She's an American living in London and working for the London Police Department at first, and then for MI6 as an investigator of this serial killer who's been killing a bunch of people across Europe. So it was very good show. I watched a good 7 consecutive episodes of it before I finally just like stopped watching. Well, I guess I started watching something else and fell asleep. But I still have some episodes, plenty of episodes to go, because I think there's multiple seasons of it. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. What else might I watch? Well, I could watch The Artifice Girl. I'm not in that mood, but a team of special agents. Oh, good. I like teams of special agents. A team of special agents discovers a revolutionary new computer program. I could probably watch it on YouTube too. Let's see. Oh, yeah. It's on the YouTubes. It's $4. That's fine. I could watch it on the Tubi for free if that would really work, but I'm skeptical of the Tubi. Okay, enough. God. Stop. Baba. K-Ran 318, you're being a baba. I don't appreciate it. Amanda Pete. Amanda hug and kiss. Yeah, I see. I saw it. I know. I might watch it. Who knows? Okay. Probably I will watch Netflix then. So good night, everybody. I love you all. I'll be thinking about you for a little while after I end the stream. So have a wonderful night. Sleep well. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Rest up, and tomorrow's a brand new day, Tiger. So you go out and get them, Slugger, and we'll see you later.